today is going to be a good day. Alright, y'all. So this is me taking the opportunity to kind of let y'all in on a little something. Most of you watch this channel for Buick and probe content, but I have several other channels and I've never really promoted them on this channel, but I did want to give y'all an opportunity to check them out if you felt the need. One of them is called Spokane Car Tuners channel, and Tuners is spelled with a Z. That one is where I've done other people's cars. I haven't really uploaded to it in a couple of years, so it's not very fresh right now. And my other channel, I have Takarev Shooters channel, which is where I do my gun stuff. I haven't uploaded to it recently, but again, I'll be trying to upload to that one more often. And then the most important one, the one I want you guys to help me grow if you can, is called Phoenix from the Ash channel. So it's about my 2008 Chevy G3500 cutaway shuttle bus that I'm turning into a house that my kiddo and I are going to live in. And it's going to be my mobile welding school and mobile home that I travel the country with, and hopefully end up in Florida here in the next year or two, so that I can race full time with the probe and the Buick. And then that'll obviously generate more content on this channel, but most of my time is focused on that. So if you'd be interested in watching me turn this bus into a house, make sure to go check out that channel. It's called Phoenix from the Ash. It might be Phoenix from the Ash Schoolie. I'm having some weird issues with the name. It keeps changing randomly between the two. I know that that's not usual, but that's how it is. But if you look up Phoenix from the Ash, it'll pop up, and it's a picture of me and my kid standing in front of the bus where we will be living here very shortly. So make sure to go check that out. All right, here I am, and I just pulled the retaining nuts for the input and intermediate shaft off that retain the 5th gear cluster. I am going to be tearing down this YouTube subscriber's tranny that I did an M-Factory install in. He had a failure, and I'm going to diagnose what that failure was, determine if maybe somehow I made a mistake, and if I did, rectify it. And if not, determine what part of this used transaxle that was stuck in gear when we decided to use it for this one, because it was the best one that he had, and I got it unstuck, got it going through the gears just fine, but it always had some kind of bearing noise, and I think one of the bearings might have exploded. So I've got to knock the roll pin out of the 5th reverse shift fork here so that I can remove this with the cluster. And then after both of these assemblies are off, you got to remove these 2 bolts, which have 2 retaining pins that it holds down that hold on to each one of these shift fork shafts, shift rails, I think is what they're called. And we will get to that point here in just a second, so I will come back to you. So I'm going to be knocking the roll pin out of this 5th reverse shift fork, and then after I'm done with that, I'll be pulling the 5th and reverse cluster off, and I'll show you the next step. So what you do is you get your punch, make sure it's the correct size for the pin. Okay, now you're just going to slowly and gently until you get it kind of recessed in. Okay, she's starting to move. Okay, you gotta be careful not to get your punch stuck. So now that I got it moving, I can grab a little bit smaller punch and kind of go around the edges until finally that pin is going to pop out right there. Okay, so now that the pin is out, this will slide off of the shift shaft. So you just grab both clusters. And actually, a lot of times what I will do is remove this part first, right here. Just set that over here. And then you should be able to remove this entire cluster with the shift fork. Like so. You just got to be careful that you don't let it all blow apart. When you're trying to pull it off, you want to try and kind of keep it together and work it all up as one. So little by little, kind of get it up, keep firm pressure holding the assemblies together. And just like that, it comes apart in a unit. But do not forget this bearing here and this collar. Both of these need to stay together, but the most important thing, come look at this, right here. Focus down on here, Talon. Bring it over here where you can actually see where I'm pointing. There we go. There's a little, here, hit the flash. Oh, okay. The little ball bearing that's in there, if you lose that, it will ruin the entire fifth gear cluster because it'll be able to spin on the shaft. That ball bearing retains everything. I'll come back to you here in a second when I have everything else apart. Hit stop. All right, now that those are off, the next step is to remove this piece here, which holds the shift rails in place. It has two small cylindrical bearings underneath. You need to keep those with it. And like I said, that little ball bearing that goes in here is very important. So you want to make sure that that is good. Now the next step, and what will allow you to separate the case, is you have to take out the detent bolts, balls, and springs. And then on the back side here, that bolt right there, which is the shift shaft retaining bolt, you have to take that out. Then you just take out the bell housing bolts that go all the way around, and you can separate the case halves. So I will come back once that's done. So it's already going. Now that all the, come over here.
Okay.
All of the detent bolts and springs are out. The reverse retainer bolt is out. Now we can separate the case halves. All these bolts are out. So now I just got to get this case to slide off of these shift shafts like so. Hold on.
It's big.
Got a plug stuck here under the bell housing. Get that out from under there. And now we can separate it. Okay.
It's big.
It is big. So here we have the inside of a Mazda H series manual transaxle known as the H5M or G5M. And previously there was some crunchy noises while he was driving, and it's not immediately apparent what that noise would be. I'm thinking it might actually be inside of the differential, but I am not sure because I am not seeing any obvious bearing failure. These bearings look good, they're not crunchy, and it was some nasty noises. I see no chips or teeth missing off of any gears, which leads me to believe that it's either the differential bearing on the other side, on the bell housing side, or the differential itself failed, which I've heard of M factories failing before, where the helical gears inside of the differential fail. So that might be the case here. Well, bad news for my subscriber. All the bearings appear to be in good shape. None of them have broken cages or anything missing. All of the races look good for the input and intermediate shaft. The only thing that it could be is this M factory differential took his shit internally. I can't really... It looks like there's some chunkers in there. Damn, that sucks. I don't know what happened. Alright, so when I tell people that my reverse doesn't work in the probe because I forgot one little tab, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is for the reverse shift fork, right? It sits right here, has these two bolts, okay? This one goes here. This one goes here. Now, as this shift fork here goes up and down, you can see how it grabs that arm and lifts it up. Well, you would have this here normally, which is your reverse gear. And so what that's doing is you lift up the shift fork and it picks that up, which kicks your reverse gear up into place normally. Nice. Just sprayed oil in my eyes. But anyway, so you have this little tab right here. This little guy. And this locks this up into place like so. Well, when you're a dummy like me and you put it in like that without that locked in, guess what? You don't have reverse. So I literally just have to pull my case apart, go and lock that up in place, and I'll have reverse again. So yeah, don't be a dummy like me when you put this back together. I forgot to say what the reasoning behind this is. You notice how it falls below the tab? Well, it's because that little selector is not inside of this channel right here. So you put your gear on, then you take this, stick it inside of here and put it on, and it prevents it from being able to fall below this tab. When I installed my tranny, I was tired trying to rush to get it back together, to get it out of a friend of mine's shop that it had been sitting in for too long. And that is how mine ended up right there, which is why I don't have reverse. That needs to be inside of that. See how it's underneath and not inside of it? That was my mistake. Well, got most of the trans reassembled. Figured out that it had an factory differential failure, so it wasn't anything I did. It was an internal failure inside of the differential. I'm guessing caused by axle bind because his car was very, very low, like tuck and tire in the fender low. And I've heard of people having problems with these using stock axles and an LSD. They say that an open differential is the way to go, and they will break axles, but with an LSD, it looks like our stock 28 spline axles are pretty strong, and it broke the helical gears inside of the differential, which I've never seen before, but I've heard of these differentials breaking in probes, so unfortunately, this guy had a failure. So this GT gearbox will be either getting scrapped or sent back to him, depending on what he wants to do, because it's pretty useless at this point, because it was he threw the stock differential away, I'm pretty sure. We cut the ring gear off of it anyway to install it on this, and he's got a stock differential tranny in his car. He's not been having any issues, so he probably doesn't have much use for an LSD unless he wants to raise the car, which I don't think he does. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share if you like this kind of content. Let me know. I hope I see you guys again here soon.